Welcome back to the University of Life and this course, the 12 Loves. We're on now to love number 2. And as I mentioned in the last video, this is the gold standard of love. This is the touchstone. This is the real thing. This is the most important kind of love that can exist in the universe. And I'm about to tell you the relatively simple formula for how to make it happen. Now, I've read rough approximations, descriptions of this kind of love by other researchers, and they use different names for it. The name I try to choose is a descriptive name. So when I tell you this name, you'll instantly have a pretty good idea about how it works. And then I'll tell you the actual process and the nuances and the ups and downs and ins and outs of it. And the name of this great love, the greatest love in my opinion, and I will try to make that your opinion as well, is invested love. This happens, let's start with an example. Let's say you have a beautiful garden, or yard or home, a car, a work of art, a child maybe, right? And you spend a lot of time working on that and improving it and cultivating it and encouraging it to turn out great. And here's what happens. That time, that attention, that emotion, that caring, that intention, all these things, it's basically your life. It's you. I mean, that's what life is made of. Time and effort and attention, right? And all the experiences that go along with that. So when you put that into something else, guess what happens? Your sense of self, your you, expands because you put you into that thing, and it becomes personal, right? It becomes, in a way, an extension of yourself. Now, obviously, it's separate. You are not your car, I'm sorry to say. You're not your child, obviously. That thing has a mind of its own sometimes, doesn't it? And it's just as well. And yet, your family, you're bonded. It reflects on you, and you care about it. And often, like someone who you've invested in, when they're happy, you're so happy. You're like, I'm so glad for you. You get to rejoice in the same way. Here's my favorite story about that. Somebody told me this story. I thought I knew who. I called her up to verify the story when I was doing this research. Turns out, no, it wasn't her. So I have no idea who it was, but here's how I remember it. It still serves as an example. State championship baseball, high school, last game, bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, full count. Can you imagine being that batter? Staring down the pitcher, waiting, like this next throw, and they're down 2 points. This could determine everything. Are you going to win? If you can knock a couple runs in, you just won state. Or if you just don't get out, then somebody else has to bear that burden. And if you strike, it's over, and you just lost it. So lots of tension, right? Well, pitcher threw, probably a fastball. And batter swings, catches it right on the end of the bat, maximum leverage, knocks the thing over the fence. That's it. All you got to do is walk around the diamond now, right? So as this runner rounds the bases, he can't even see through his tears, right? Just the relief, the excitement, everything going on is just, can't hardly even see where he's going. He rounds third, and all this, the dugout just empties, and it comes up, and they're all high-fiving, and he touches home plate, and they lift him up on his shoulders, and so here's where it starts to get interesting. Who just had the greatest moment of his life? Obviously, the batter. Who else? Obviously, his team, right? I mean, he didn't win the game alone. It was a team effort, and his was the last one. It was dramatic, and it was amazing, and that's awesome, and everybody's excited for him. They're also excited for themselves because you know what they are? They're winners. It doesn't end there, because if you widen your lens a little more wide angle, and what do you see in the stands? See a whole bunch of people who don't even play baseball, jumping up and down, popcorn flying in the air, hugging, laughing, high-fiving, fist bumping. They're so excited. Guess what they are? They're winners, because that's their team. right? And then you can extend this out as far as you want. Across the country, there's somebody sitting in their living room watching this game on TV, and they're doing the same thing, and they're on social media texting like, y'all losers, my team just won, and this person has never even been to that town. Nobody there even knows he exists. But you know what? He chose that team. That's his team, and he invested his time. Maybe he knows all the stats, right? And so it matters to him, and so he gets to celebrate it, and that is perfectly right to do so. And the point is, this is one of the things that makes love infinite, because you can celebrate anybody. You can invest in anybody you want, and your sense of self can expand to care about them similarly to how you care about yourself. There is a scientific word for when that happens. The word it's a verb, to cathect. So if you cathect something, you have expanded yourself to include that kind of in your sense of self. And the word for that thing that you just cathected is your cathexis, spelled X-I-S. Cool word. Now, I don't know if I want to say the worst thing about this. One of the downsides is that it doesn't have to be mutual. You can love someone so much. You probably experienced this, right? I'm sorry. And they hardly cared about you, hardly knew you existed, right? Or at least didn't treat you well, like you deserved. After all you've done for them, it's not fair. No, I'm sorry, it's not fair. But that's the way it is. But I'm still going to persuade you. I'm going to do my best to persuade you to make your goal to be more loving, more than just being more loved. And I'm going to try and convince you that that's really the best way to become more loved. Like, imagine it's like the Wild West, right? And you've got a gun and you're pretty fast with it. So you can go take anything you want. Well, maybe you can get some gold, but then somebody else is going to come gunning for you, and you can only get so far. But with the social contract, you know what that is? That's like, I'll respect you and your rights. My right to swing my fist ends at your nose, and you will respect mine, and we will punish anyone who doesn't do that to each other, for everybody, all of society around us. When we have cooperation like that, we can get so much farther ahead. So if you just want to be more loved, and you want to approach all this stuff, take my research and approach it selfishly, okay, whatever, I can't control you. But we're not going to rise as a society. You're not going to rise in, like, you're never going to have this level of a relationship, because when you behave that way, this is the best you're going to get. And you might feel like you're winning, maybe getting a lot of pleasure from people and stuff, but it's going to be short-lived. It's not going to be as deep and as multifaceted as the true love stuff. So I will continue to try and persuade you of that fact and go for the gold, for the best. Along with celebrating other people's victories, yes, it is also true, this is another one of the downsides of invested love, that you will suffer when they suffer. When you see them hurting, when you see them fail, discouraged, whatever, your heart will go out to them, and you will empathize, you will feel some of those feelings, and it can be hard. It can be really hard. I can't think of anything, well, there are few things that could be probably harder than that. As a quote, I saw a meme last weekend when someone I know died, and somebody posted this. It said, "Grief is the price we pay for love." So it's not all good news. Life is hard. It's crap sometimes. It's also glorious. It's so amazing. And the more we all collectively learn to love and show interest in one another and support each other, and shared burdens become so much lighter. So if we had a strong support network, our lows would never get anywhere nearly as low as they too often do. So let's learn this and practice it, and let it transform us and become personal. Do your homework, share it with other people, so that we can all kind of rise to these higher levels. This is another one of the downsides of invested love. There's no guarantee this will work. I told you this is an equation. This one you can't control as completely. You can invest your time, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you will cathect other people, and especially that they won't cathect you back. And maybe really there is a formula where you can see all, but we don't know all the variables. They're too hidden in our minds and our hearts and our histories and experiences and expectations and perceptions. So it's really impossible to measure them all. And one of the biggest things that gets in the way, of course, is the ability to be vulnerable, to actually open up your heart to connect with other people. There is a magic that happens like that. In a way, this connection is so simple. It's like you have a battery and a couple wires, and you touch them together, and all of a sudden the imbalance, the positive and negative charges flow through that, and you have a connection. Simple as that. But too many of us have been hurt, and the world is often not safe because people are so critical, and it's so easy to criticize on social media because you're not there, and people dare say anything. And if they're in a bad mood, what do? They blurt it out. They try to externalize that and discharge it onto other people as if that will make them feel better. Maybe a tiny bit, but overall no, and it just makes everybody else feel worse. So you trolls, knock it off. You're making the world a worse place, and you're not really helping yourself either. So I'm sorry you're hurting, but find better solutions than just that. So because of all this, the world's not a safe place, and a lot of people aren't about to open up their heart to you and trust that you will treat them with the respect that they deserve. So it can take time of showing interest and some kindness and some thoughtfulness and some respect and some decency and just being reasonable. Sometimes it takes time for people to open up and say, I trust you now. And sometimes, of course, other scary people around them also get in the way of really opening your heart. And if you close your heart to one thing like that, or let's say someone mistreated you in the past, they ghosted you, that's the worst, right? No resolution, that hurts. It's bad. It's cowardly of people who do that. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. It is cowardly if you do that. Don't ghost people. Give people at least some kind of explanation to go on, because otherwise you can really cripple them. It sucks. So don't suck. Don't be that person. But if you get wounded, again, you've got that protection around. It's harder to open up to people. Now, in the upcoming chapters, as we explore other types of love, you're going to find several with a lot in common with this invested love. You'll also find a few with some marked differences. In fact, there are several counterfeits to this. It's pretty interesting stuff. And in the next video, though, rather than take you to love number 3, we're going to explore this one a little bit more, because I've already told you how it works. But with invested love in particular, it's also extremely useful. It is instructive. It is informative to understand what this love wants from its cathexis, from the people that it loves. So stay tuned. We'll see you then. Love you. I'll also explain why I close videos that way sometimes. You might be thinking, you don't know me, you don't love me, that's impossible. Well, I'm going to try and persuade you otherwise in the next video. You'll see why. See you then.